You know, all of those things matter when you're considering how to balance something. But without boundaries and clear communication on those boundaries to establish balance, I think it's really, really difficult to find balance.
Yeah. Thinkless. What are we not thinking enough about? Join us as we evaluate our thought life. I'm Parker, and I'm here with my co-host, Amber. Welcome to the show. Well, since we're now into the episode, welcome to Thinkless, everyone, where we evaluate our thought life, where we want to spend more time thinking about things that maybe we're not thinking enough about.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like finding, I don't know if balance is maybe the right word, but we can kind of maybe integrate and discover and figure out this balance and rhythm conversation.
Yeah.
Because balance even is kind of alluding to like if something is heavier than the other thing is. So obviously like how can it be the same? But whenever we're carrying a lot of different things, how can it all be the same?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's realistic. So you were, before we just hopped on and before I just kicked it off, you were talking about something that I think you should shed some light on.
Yeah, you know, I think in life, when you start talking balance, you're looking at your life as a whole, right? Or I do. You know, I'm thinking, you know, my personal life, my family life, my work career, you know, my friendships, my social life, you know, my health, like all of it. And you're spinning like, I don't know, like a million plates. And then I feel like every day somebody's throwing you like a new saucer that you're trying to spin. And then you've got them all spinning and you're just so busy that eventually you're just like, screw it. And you drop all the plates. Yeah. That's not an answer neither. I mean, we can't drop all the plates of our life. We can't just put it all down. So then you're like, what do I put down? What do I pick up? What do I keep? What do I not keep? You know, you're trying to find what I think a rhythm. Once you find a balance, now you got to find a rhythm. What I think is so interesting, when you tightrope walk, you talk about balance.
Tightrope walk. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, you know how that just makes you really tense just thinking about it, right?
Yes.
And you're trying to balance. Do you know what's really interesting about that? They put a bar in your hand that is weighted. Yeah. To balance. Yeah. To walk across. Yeah. So we have to have some sort of weight. There has to be some sort of responsibilities to even keep us in balance. Yeah. Without it, we'll just fall over. Yeah. Like we can't walk all the way across. It's with that weight that you balance that weight that you're able to walk that tightrope all the way across. Yeah. So, you know, in the conversations of finding balance, people are always like, say no more. You know, just, you got to say no. Do you have no in your verbiage? You know, I'm like, okay, yes, I get that. But for somebody like me that I'm like, okay, yeah, they're like, you need more vacation. You know what? I just think you need to relax and have a vacation. I'm like, I can't take all the weight off. Occasionally, that's every once in a while, you should do that. I am a big proponent. I mean, we do it in an episode on solitude. Yes. I mean, not like it's a big proponent of going away and having some isolation, solitude, all that. It's not realistic, though, to maintain that on a regular. That can't be your answer. Your answer has to be, how am I balancing that weight of responsibility in my life? How am I evaluating and what am I thinking about with the responsibilities in my life? So if I feel out of balance, then I've got to compartmentalize and go, okay, how many plates am I spinning and what do I have? What is unnecessary? So what can I start to say, you know what, this is not necessary right now, maybe, or maybe not necessary at all. Yeah. And then how can I start spinning the right plates in a rhythm and in a time? You know, because there's seasons where, you know, when I started the studio, that was a super busy season. So no, I couldn't be home cooking dinner every night, starting a business as much as I would love to. But for like 18 years, I did that. Yeah. 18 years, I was home every night cooking dinner. Then a new season came, so my plate spinning looked a little different. And I had to balance and prioritize different things and know that's just a season, not maintainable. It's not a good thing. And I would notice when things started getting really out of balance, I would have to say, all right, I'm going to have to, at least this weekend or at least one night a week, I'm going to need to go home. and be sure that I'm home eating, cooking, normal, what everybody's been used to. So that's where that rhythm comes into play. You know, when you find the balance, then you put in a rhythm, and that's when you really start, in my opinion, that's when you really start ginning.
Well, I think a lot of this has to do with like our energy, and because you were talking about, you know, sustainability.
Yeah.
And so figuring out like when am I the most energized? So even looking at like at a day, it's like, okay, we have all of these different plates spinning. Yes. How can, first off, what can I realistically say no to? But also because even whenever all of those plates, even that just analogy is like, if one falls, then I feel like that is
Unbalanced of in itself.
that's unbalanced within itself. And then the next one will fall, and the next one will fall, and the next one will fall.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like this, like, so even we're trying so hard to be able to keep these plates spinning so that they don't fall. But I'm even thinking, okay, because so even looking at, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a pastor, we're podcasters, we're like leaders in different, so lead teams and lead people. And so there's a lot of responsibilities that we have, which I think us as human beings, we are created for responsibility.
Amen.
One of the first things, whenever the earth was created, now I believe that the Lord Jesus created, God the Father, like Trinity created and spoke this world into existence, but then gave a responsibility to the man, Adam, that said like, this is yours to take care of. So there's responsibility immediately given. So whenever we don't have responsibility, I think that is a recipe for disaster. And
we're out of balance.
Well, we're out of balance. Absolutely. So like, once again, holding the weight, like we need weight. But also looking at, if I am always a dad in this, so forever. So I am always a leader. So it's like, it's not one of those plates that I necessarily can like hand off or put down. But I do think that I'm in the mindset of like, how can I establish, knowing that my energy is limited? So who could maybe I bring along to ultimately put another hand on the plate, or the thing holding the plate while it's spinning. You know what I'm saying? So even kind of in that energy conversation, I'm evaluating when is my energy at its highest and when is it at its lowest for that rhythm, knowing that, okay, you run a business, so you're always evaluating and thinking about this. But ultimately, when can Amber give her best energy to this business, like making decisions, organizing, constructing, thinking through different things, like in order to know that, okay, when can you give your best energy here, but also what are the other things and priorities in your life that you can give your best energy to as well. Because I know for me, and once again, I can ramble about this for a long time, simply because I know my best energy is in the morning. Like I know for me that there's a lot of responsibilities that I carry, but how can I structure kind of that 5 a.m. to like noon period where I'm very much dedicating time and focused energy into several different things, because I know in the afternoon, when it comes to like tasks and product, like I'm much more relational in the afternoon than I am in the morning. And so I'm trying to evaluate, okay, how can, with all of the balance of the different things that we're carrying, how can I be a good steward of my energy in the midst of those responsibilities? And how can I evaluate when I'm contributing my greatest in different time periods as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think everybody has to define for themselves what is balance for them.
Yeah.
Right? Like listening to you makes me think, I can hear what's priority in your life. Being a father is high priority for you. Some people would put other things above that. And that's their balance. So then what do you say is healthy balance? you know, how do you define success? How do you define balance in your life? There is an author that I really love. His name's Tommy Newberry, and he wrote a book called Success is Not an Accident.
Success is not.
Note to self, note to self. Yeah. Success is not an accident.
Yeah.
And he's a life coach to the 1%, the top echelon, financial echelon people in the world. And he says everyone has a different version and definition of what success is for them.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, no, totally.
What he tries to teach is, in his opinion, when you find balance in life in certain areas, you've hit the pinnacle of your success, your level of success. So when you can balance your personal life, which is your relationship with the Lord, your family life, and your business all at the same time to have an equal balance to those things, that's the pinnacle of success.
Yeah.
Well, that model goes across all levels of finances.
Yeah.
Right. But
for sure,
that's his version of what he truly says. There is a fullness of balance there and a full success.
Yeah.
You know, I happen to agree with that same thing. So then if you were to cut your life into those areas and say, how am I balancing those three main areas in my life?
Yeah.
Everything outside of that is probably something extra I've taken on that could be hindering the three main things. Right. And so that's how I've chose to look at it. So I put my relationship with the Lord high priority. I put the relationship with my family high priority, and then I put the relationship with my career in high priority. All three of those get priority in my life. And so I'm always evaluating, like, where am I succeeding in these and where am I not doing well in these?
Yeah.
And if something's not going as well as I want, then I make a goal for a month to try to make some major changes there.
Yeah.
You know, because it's all seasonal. Balance is seasonal.
Yeah.
It looks different. Like I said, you know, before I had the studio, I did something else that was part-time, and, you know, I did that for a while, but it left me a lot of time. Like, I just did it while the kids were in school. You know, I was with the kids constantly. Those were seasons that I chose to focus. A large part of my balanced time was raising them, making sure the home was taken care of, dinner was made, kids were taken care of, you know, right? But I also still had to focus a little bit on a career and focus definitely on my own personal well-being, right? Which I could lump that in with my relationship with the Lord and health and, you know, mental clearness, all those things. But I can tell you, every time I feel out of balance, it's because of one of those three areas.
Yeah.
Almost every time.
Well, I've found, for me, I'm looking at all the balance of those, but also the integration of all of those as well.
Yeah.
So how can I welcome my family into the professional side just as much as I welcome the professional side into my family? Because I was asked a couple of weeks ago from someone that I was introduced to and having a conversation with, and she was like, what are your thoughts on work-life balance? And I was like, my thoughts are I don't want my family to be excluded from my work. And I don't want my work to be excluded from my family, because I'm a leader here and I'm a leader there. And so it's not more of a position as it really is kind of a perspective of I want the people that I work with and the people that know me in this setting to also be able to have exposure to know me in this setting as well, because I do want to be just consistent as a person in both of those, but also knowing, obviously, time differentiating between, well, it's like, okay, well, from this time to this time, I'm normally here working, and from this time to this time, I'm normally here at home or with my family. Yeah. But creating opportunities, because those three areas for me are like, I'm just as much as a follower of Jesus at work as I am in my home, as I am in the grocery store. Like I am just as much as I am a dad at work, as I am a dad at home, as I am a dad elsewhere. And so it's like, how from either a time perspective or just even a mentality perspective, knowing that if those three things are my main priority, how can each and every one of those pieces integrate and be seen by the other? So that my son doesn't resent me whenever I go to work, but actually he knows what it is that I do and the people that I'm doing it with. Same with the people that I'm doing it or working, that they know my son and what he loves. And so it's that, and I'm trying to evaluate my life from, like I said, this integration, but also this equal, I mean, it's hard to say equal balance, but this,
or really just how you merge them all together.
Yeah.
And, you know, for us, there was a hard line with that. Like, so we have an office in our house, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of houses have home offices now.
Yeah.
And for us, there was a line there. We never used a home office where it would work 24/7. We would bring it home. And where I see where the integration is, but then I also see for us, we had to find clear boundaries. Once past here, I can't be working anymore. I can't let that bleed over into my home.
Yeah.
Because I would work, there would be no balance. And that was one of the things that, you know, the Lord told me really clearly when I was a counselor for a long time. When I left that building, he said, you turn off the counseling hat and you are back mom again and wife. Otherwise, I would carry. So you couldn't call me after hours, you know, unless somebody was in a major situation. And I made exceptions for those. Otherwise, I would literally could have counseled around the clock. I mean, around the clock, it could have just happened. But there were sacred times that were like, no, you're going to get the full version of me. Like, I am going to be present when I'm here. So when I walk through that door of the house, I am mom. I am vulnerable in a different way. I am not leading in a way that's like a business way. I'm leading my home, but with a tenderness in a different way. You know, I had to set those healthy boundaries. And a matter of fact, the Lord said, if you don't put healthy boundaries on this, you will lose it all. And so it was one of the things that I was really like, okay, so now what you're saying as far as I'm Amber, no matter where I go, who is married with children and loves Jesus and grew up in a small town. And like, I am who I am, no matter what building I'm standing in. And that's integrity. And I allow myself the freedom to be that no matter where I am. So I stand for those things. I believe for those things and all of that. But when it came to high driver, professional person, for me, it was too hard to. And then if the kids ever came to my work, it was like, I handle them differently than I handle corporate, you know, as a leader. I'm not that I'm more patient, but I am a lot, as a mom, I am a lot more patient with them. There's a lot of grace that has to happen. They don't know, you're teaching 24/7.
For sure.
You know, and raising kids. Every day you're just teaching. You're being an example, you're teaching. Well, when you're dealing with adults, not so much. There are some expectations that I should not be teaching.
You're an adult. You should know.
There should be a level of professionalism stuff that's just there. So there's a line that's, you know, pretty known there. So my daughter will say when she comes here to the studio, she's like, oh, it's work, mom, you know, because I'm kind of like, did you get you? And she's like, where at home, I'm not like that.
For sure.
I'm like, hey, you have time. I'm going to talk to you. Okay, let's go get it. You know,
let's go get ice cream.
It's fine, whatever. You know, you kind of can go there a little bit with them. So I think it's finding what works for everybody's personality and finding what works and per your career. I mean, everybody's careers are different, demands different things. I think it's just really being able to look at the 3 buckets or whatever you deem as your 3 buckets. That just happens to be my 3 buckets.
No, that's so you have to clarify. You have to clarify what and define, as you said earlier, just what success means to you. Because otherwise you will walk around aimlessly. And then you will look back at your life and you'll be like, man, I waste so much time. And I was so distracted, and I this is ultimately what matters to me, but I didn't find out until it was too late.
And balance is what keeps us secure, happy, healthy, whole is balance. I mean, balance without boundaries is just all over the place. Like you're just the chaos. So to put boundaries on that balance makes, in my opinion, a lot more easier. So like the bar, all that weight is within one purpose.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's the heaviness of how to use that to get across the road.
Yeah.
You know, if that looked like it had a whole bunch of prongs off of it with weight distributed everywhere else, trying to do it for you, you'd be like, what is happening? I mean, you would just really be trying to maneuver that thing to where it was the end nodule things were moving versus it's one bar within balance, within boundaries. Now you can balance. So having firm boundaries is what we did was to say, hey, this isn't working, because in the beginning of our business starting, there was, you're starting a business. There is no boundaries. It's literally all over the place. You work 24/7 sacrificing to try to get something going.
Yeah.
And everybody has to be on board with that. And we were, to a point that I said, hey, we're raising little humans, and I think they should see both of us. And, you know, it was like for me, it was, as long as we eat dinner together, I don't care where that dinner is. I don't care if it's in your office. I don't care if it's at a restaurant. I don't care if it's at home. But as long as we are together for dinner, just talking to each other, so we're not emailing, we're not texting, we're not talking, but be present for dinner, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's a balanced thing. I'm not going to, we don't have to have a lot. I understand the situation we're in. So that's where I think it's just different, but depending on where you are in life, what your career is, what you do, what your dynamics of your family are, you know, all of those things matter when you're considering how to balance something. But without boundaries and clear communication on those boundaries to establish balance, I think it's really, really difficult to find balance.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because you, of course, speaking from the spouse perspective of like figuring that out with the person, especially if you're married. If you were an isolated single person that you're just like, hey, I'm out here. I'm
sure.
Like there's a different level of what you deem as important, what you're trying to figure out. Absolutely. But especially whenever you're like, okay, I've committed to someone, or I've got a couple little humans running around, like very much figuring out what does balance look like for us versus just what does it look like for me is key. Yeah. It's necessary.
100%.
And because balance for my wife looks very different than balance for me. I'm the person that will go and go and go until my body starts shutting down and I just get sick for a period and then I recover and I'm like, all right, let's go again.
Let's go again. Yeah.
So balance for me has been really hard because I like to fill all of my time with something. Doing.
Yeah, same.
And going and trying and seeing. And so, but for my wife, it's very much like, no, I want you home. Yeah. And I want to spend time. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, so we're figuring out, and we're only 5 years into marriage. So
you're experts.
We're new. Yeah.
Well, I would like to tell you. I would like to tell you that got easier, but I don't know that it gets easier. I think you're always growing and changing because you know why? Because you're growing and changing. So your environment, your circumstances, the kids look different, timing looks different, career looks different.
Totally.
So it's really having the boundaries and communication and understanding, giving the other person the opportunity, if you have somebody in your life, the opportunity to say, this is what success and balance looks like to me. And this is what success and balance looks like to me. Now, how do we work those two out moving forward? And if you're single, I think there's a lot of people that are single here that work here and we talk a lot. And theirs is always like, how much time do I put towards social? How much time do I put towards, my career? How much time do I put towards my personal well-being? You know, I mean, they're always trying to find the right amount of balance, and I've told all of them, well, it depends on kind of your season. What are you trying to accomplish right now? Are you trying to move up corporate ladder? Are you trying to start something new? Where are you? Like, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What is it that you want to do? Because your balance in your life is going to look different depending on what you've deemed that as.
Yes.
I mean, if you're just trying to get married right now, you probably want to beef up the social part, buddy. I mean, I'm just saying, you got to go find somebody.
Beef up the social part and get those arms a little bit bigger. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I mean, it's like, what are you working towards? Or if you really are trying to get stable in your career, financially get stable, well, you might want to not go out every weekend and go out. Use that time. Sacrifice a little bit of that time for the short-term gain. Sacrifice a little bit of that to either study something, develop something, work more, get a second job, whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to find balance for that season. Yeah. You won't feel the frustration. You're going to accomplish your goals. You're going to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
So, balance is driven, in my opinion, by where you're going. Like same thing. You can be on the tightrope, but if there's no end, like where are you going? Like how long are you going to carry this weight for?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't hold that bar for indefinitely ever.
Yeah.
Like they go to a certain place and they set it down. Recalibrate, get back up, take the bar again and walk some more.
Yeah.
So it's like, how far are you going to go? Where are you going to go? It's that thing where like, if you pick up a cup of water, it's like, this is nothing. Hold it for 5 hours and you're like, oh my gosh, that's my bicep cramping. There's, finding the timing and balance and, the weight and what you're carrying for how long can you carry that. School, kids that are in college, that's a 4-year season, right? Like how much of a load of college can you take? How fast do you want to go? And what's realistic in maintaining that? So at different times of my life, its balance has looked different.
Yeah.
Per what I was wanting to accomplish. Like right here at the beginning of the year, like who doesn't set the goal to get in better shape?
For sure.
Like everyone.
It was so funny. It was exactly. Yeah. It was so funny at the gym, like the first, because you go to Lifetime up here and we're in Houston right now for everyone listening, watching, whatever. Yeah. You're on one side of Houston. I'm on the other side of Houston, but we have the same membership at the same gym.
Yeah.
Yours just newly got built, so it's a lot nicer than
it is
mine,
nicer.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But I know it's so funny.
Visit.
It was so funny. Yeah. It was so funny to see the amount of new people.
Oh yeah.
But the kind of falls in line with very much this balance conversation is I ask myself regularly, what would Parker in 10 years thank me for?
Yeah.
And so once again, clarifying what it is that I prioritize so that I can define success. What does success look like? But also fast forward 10 years is, would Parker in 10 years thank me for, I don't know, just binging Netflix right now? Would Parker in 10 years thank me for sleeping in and not spending time with my family in the morning because I'm like, what would, what would Parker deemed the things I've prioritized and focused on and clarified as this is success right now? Like if I don't do some of these things because myself gets in the way, like asking myself that question in order to rebalance myself, what would Parker in 10 years thank me for?
Yeah.
And that's been a very helpful question for me.
Yeah.
Because I've said no to some things in order to prioritize the things that I do want to do and I do want to focus on. And so maybe we can move into some practicals.
Yeah.
Asking that question, I think can be helpful.
Yep.
You're talking about defining success. What does success look like right now in this season?
Yep.
And I think one is, where do we have responsibility? And because responsibility is good, but also what is something maybe right now that drains me versus drives me? So what is, even in some of the different responsibilities, whenever we're trying to figure out how to prioritize what, if we're lost and be like, man, I don't even know where to begin. Well, I think a clarifying question to ask could be, what about my responsibilities drives me and energizes me versus what are the things that drain me?
Yeah. And I think you really got to look at your practical challenge is look at the plates you're spinning. What are they? What are your top 3 plates you cannot put down? What are those 3 buckets that are high priority for you
Yeah.
in your life?
Yeah.
Right? How are you balancing those 3?
Yeah.
What is the access that's outside of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is it adding to your top 3 or is it taking away from your top 3? So if you're able to keep some plates spinning and you're doing okay at it and it's helping those 3 things, hey, okay. You know, like being PTO president, mom president, whatever, is not a main plate spinner.
Yeah.
Okay. But if it helps me in knowing my kids' friends and it helps me in areas and all that, it supports. Oh, whoa. Look how excited I got. Ripped it down. It helps support like my kids,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think you've got to evaluate those. So I would challenge people to, you know, look at what you have and then how do you categorize your top 3 and then look at everything else around it and then say, okay, do any of those help propel this forward or distract and take away from it?
Yeah.
And if it distracts and takes away from it, start looking at ways that you can get it out of your life for the season that you're in, for your end goal to be ultimately at the end of the day.
Yes.
I want to look at my life where you're not promised tomorrow. You've only got today.
Yep.
And if I was to go today, would I have regrets for today? Did I look at the 3 buckets that I have and go, okay, I did work good today, I did family good today, and I did personal relationship with the Lord and myself good today. Did I do those good today? Okay. Did I fail at a few other things? Yeah. All right. But at least my 3 are still kicking, you know?
Yeah.
Because those are the 3 that drive me forward.
Yep.
So finding those practical things like that.
I think it's helpful.
Totally.
So I took notes.
But balance. Find that balance.
Balance, rhythm. Let's do it.
Yeah.